gives you better conversation about your quality of life.
Let everyone know you listen to
The New Orleans Talk Network.
Good morning. This is a great day in the Lord, and this is New Orleans Talk Network, Hostages That Fight Back. I'm your host, Brother Al Mims Jr., and it's a great day to be alive, and I'm excited because I have a special guest, my guest and my co-host, Brother Leroy Browder. He's a friend. He's a community advocate. He's a soldier. And what else can I say, Brother Browder? You want to come in and say, "Hey, man, I'll introduce you to my audience, my listening audience. Y'all can pick us up on Facebook, and that's my brother here."
Brother Mims, good morning to you, and I am. So
we had to get up early this morning
to be a guest and an acting co-host this morning. There's so many issues out there for our community to come together on, and I'm just enthused to try to come with you and so see if we can get to the bottom of some of what we can do to correct our neighborhoods.
Well, I was thinking, man, and I'm glad. I know it was a short notice, but that's the kind of person you are, bro. You are when you were playing ball, bro. And that's another story. I'll tell you about that later. But we were playing here, bro. You always was a person that you could depend on at the last minute. So I want to thank you personally from my heart, brother, that you because it's very important because there's a lot of things going on, and as this year is slowly slipping. Well, it's almost 2018.
Yeah.
But I want the listening audience to know that it's a great day today, and that they can chime in. They can call us at 504-341-8255. Again, 504-341-8255, and you can hit us on Facebook, New Orleans Talk Network. Hostages that fight back. What that means is that we are hostages, but we fighting back. We're not going peacefully.
Yeah.
And I wanted that it kind of gives me a way to come in, Brother Browder. You are Central City residents, and I want to just talk about some of the things that you see that we can fix. I know we just finished having an election. But, we got people that think that everybody's going to do something for them. When you talk about some of the things that self-help or what you see that we men, and I'm not even talking about the women. Let's leave them alone right now. But we men, what we can do in our community.
Well, some of the things, Al, I think that we can do is create a think tank of sort to collect brothers and whoever is interested in targeting our kids and giving them something to do. When I grew up, we had a lot of things that we could imagine. I grew up out in Metairie, out in a little place called Bunch Village that I'm proud of, and I'm actually involved in the upkeep and the spirit that we once had when I was a kid.
Bringing back some old things.
Yes,
you're working on
but what we have to do citywide, metropolitan speaking, because we're all involved with this, to make New Orleans, Louisiana, and the surrounding parishes a great place. Louisiana has this reputation, if you will, of being last for the best and first for the worst. I mean, we have the highest incarceration rate, not in the country, but in the world. We have one of the poorest school systems in the nation, and something has to be done about that. I spoke to...
You mean Mississippi, we if I'm not mistaken, Mississippi is ahead of us. They're doing better than us in school and in education and thing. Am I right?
So I have a problem with that because, not that we need to be, if you will, with numbers associated in our ranking to always Louisiana and Alabama and those states. I mean, we have people here in this state. As I've spoke to Jefferson Parish School Board, had the opportunity to do that. I said, we have world-class teachers here that people are putting to the side. We have to reestablish our commitments for the children. There are things they're dreaming. They want to do the right things, but we don't have the guidance. Now, this is where men need to come together. The Bible says, "Iron sharpeneth iron." So does a man sharpen the consonants of his friend, and the consonants means his stability. So how do we do that? We do that as we look at our face in a mirror or in a glass, and we sharpen our friend, our community, our families up, heart to heart. So we have to start there with looking at each other and seeing exactly what would it take to correct our communities. One, we have to deal with our playground situations. We have to give the after the children in the aftercare opportunities after school. Some of them are troubled, lock key kids. We have to give them opportunities. Why does Louisiana has to be in that ranking? Always at the bottom for the best and always at the top for the worst. Now, there is justice reform that's occurring here in Louisiana as we speak. There are people who are trying to correct illegal sentences, giving nonviolent offenders a second chance.
The governor is going to the legislature in I think Congress about some new legislation to correct some things that, and it's an ongoing process. I see that.
Yeah, for sentencing, it's in the sentencing. I just reading in the paper the other day. It's unfortunate that the guy was an habitual offender, but for the offense that they gave him the habitual offender status, people were saying it really didn't fit the crime, if you will.
Tell us some more. Give us some information about that. What was going on?
Well, I think if to my recollection, he was a second offender. I think, and this he was trying to abscond from the police officers on a dirt bike or whatever it was, and when they caught up with him, they used that. He had a breaking and entry, and I may have not all the facts right now because they're not before me, but it was something to that nature. And because he gave chase on a bike and they caught up with him,
they threw the book at him.
Yeah, they wanted to give him 5 years for that, and he was saying, "Wait, I just tried to out the police," and they said no, they used that to trigger the Habitual Offenders Act. So those sorts of things, we need a better sentencing schemes for offenders. There are nonviolent offenders that are being, if you will, stacked up in prisons for the sake of collecting fines and fees and what have you.
And to comment on what you just defined or described, Brother Browder, I know when I was on the parole board from 2005 to 12, two governors, Blanco during the storm and then Bobby Jenner's first 4 years. I had a problem with Bobby Jenner because he was cutting programs, and a lot of guys, I had a guy come before me, and I asked him, what can you tell me that will make me vote in your favor? And I said, what kind of employment you got? He said, well, I'm picking up trash on the highway and in the courtroom. And I said to myself, that's not gainful employment. And also that there's a lot. There were people who came before me, Brother Browder, and I'm tell you no lie, they wouldn't kill a roach, and they had some serious time. And I was like, wow, so something's wrong there. You're right. The disparities, and I agree with you 100%. And go right ahead.
But and this is the thing that I always allude to with people. I say, the thing is, the shame is that our elected officials, statewide, citywide, our officials has a reputation. They have to know that they have a reputation in Washington, D.C. to be last for the best. And how could you operate? How could you operate? From that position once you go to Washington, and you have to come back to where the the crime rate is high, the incarceration rate is high, the illiteracy rate is high, and you go to Washington and yet you come back year after year after year, all the politicians, and you come back with that sense of reputation. Now, how do you turn it around? Well, people are making some efforts. I spoke to justice reform. There is a movement that's going on, and it has been going on, because of the type of sentencing schemes that has been literally directed to one a class of people, if you will. Unjust sentencing. I was on a program a couple of years ago, and law enforcement was involved on the conversation, and I chimed in. I said, I never can find, or can you find officers, or police officers here, who can use first-time offenders or kids or someone that you may see breaking the crime. You can use those things as a teachable moment, right? So this is what law enforcement can do. They're trying to do some things, granted, that, community policing, and they try to come and connect with we need that more around the playgrounds and what have you.
Well, let me say this to you. I'm a vice president of an organization called Fatherhood Roundtable, and I'm the president of our Children Foundation. And about 2 weeks ago, we were across the river on General Myers. We was at the one of the McDonald's, and we had about 15 kids of our kids were there on Saturday morning. Mm-hmm. And man, I'm gonna tell you, bro, and you work hard, and we work hard, Brother Browder, because being involved with these children, it ain't a 9-to-5 thing. It's giving up Saturdays and things like that, and that's what we must do. But what I wanted to bring the point is that we had police officers there, and then look on Facebook, the police page. We got police officers with children. Now, what I bring up is there's a lot of those our kids who were there. They had never been, just like you and I sitting here, they had never been close to a police officer to talk to them. Mm-hmm. A lot of them, some of them got bad information because, the police gonna arrest you, this, they're afraid of them. But they had a chance to sit down with police officers, some male, female, white, and black. And I think they did a great job. What you were saying is, for the police officers and for the kids the kids were from 7 years old to like 16, and I think that, and they were black kids, and they were, and we only was there about 3 hours. We were there like from 10 to like maybe 1 o'clock, and the food was free and thing, but it was the dialogue, Brother Browder, mm-hmm. because they were able to sit and talk to an officer and mm-hmm. ask them questions. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that stuff that you get from home or the streets or the stigma, it went away, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we do is we have football players, professional, go and see kids. We have other people from other professions that'll stop by, social workers and what have you, to go see kids. It's just a great idea for the police officers to stop and see kids.
Yes.
And so they can establish that relationship, not one of fear. And let me say this to you, is that I once was young and made huge errors and had a bad perspective of police officers, rightfully so in some instances. But then in some instances, I saw the human side of a person who was actually giving you a sense of knowledge to get you to the next level in life. So we do need that. We need better communications from the kids to law enforcement. That would be a great help.
Well, and let me say this to you too, Brother Browder, and I say this, that every kid doesn't have someone, a father or somebody who's there to mentor to correct them. Now, I know a lot of kids they get bad information because there are kids who out there who are involved. Some of their family members are on the wrong side of the law, and I've seen where kids say, they misuse my brother. But I'm saying is everything has not been racism, because some of the kids, they have become carriers for drug dealers, watch outs. And when I said this, what I'm saying is police, I think the police are better and the kids are better, or the community is better because this connection, because we used to have officer friendlies in our neighborhood. They didn't always, I'm saying every policeman wasn't out to get them. They had policemen, and they were few in numbers, that they looked out for us. Hey man, they saw me. You better go home to your boy. What you doing out here this time? Like, go get your behind home. Some of them look like me, and some of them look like the other people. But I think that, Brother Brian, what you're saying is that we can't lock up our way out of this thing. We have to find a way to make things happen. And I mean make things happen is by doing what needs to be done to educate our kids.
Well, the thing is that when we grew up in our communities, we spoke just a moment ago about mentorship. Yeah. I said to you, one of the best things that kept me moving was that I played Little League sports. There was a camaraderie there. There was a sense of community and neighborhood there. We had coaches. We had people who were were holding us up and telling us how good we were, how good we could be. Now, I've met Roosevelt Taylor when I was a young kid. He played
the Chicago Bears. He was,
right.
Defensive back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he was a mentor because I wanted to be this serious defensive back. That the story that you don't want to talk about today.
No, we're going to talk about. Wait. Hold on. Okay. Let's do this. This brother, I'm the class of '71 at Booker T. Washington High School. I was a wide receiver, split in then. I was number 80. We played Martin. I'd rather say Brother Martin. We played Martin. John Martin.
Homecoming.
Home for our homecoming in '71. And man, we was the one that was ready. But man, he
unfortunately,
y'all spoiled our homecoming.
Unfortunately,
let's do this. Let's take this break, and we'll come back, and I'm gonna let Brother Browder tell you about what happened, and we'll dialogue some more. So we're gonna take a break. I'll be right back with you.
You ever live near the railroad track?
Yeah.
Y'all know me, this is a people person here.
Big homie head.
It's your boy Fred.
This man, big fan.
Right. Listen, we're your host of the New Orleans Talk Network's Fan View. Real fans talk real sports. Check us out every Thursday night, 6 p.m.
We're back. Talk What You Know returns on Wednesday mornings at 8 a.m. We got a brand new co-host by the name of Bob B. And hey, that's me. Also, we got some new features. We're going to be giving away, have a weekly raffle of prizes. There are multiple ways for you to win, and there's a bevy of prizes. So we need you to come on back, join us on Wednesday mornings at 8 o'clock for Talk What You Know on the New Orleans Talk Network.
Here at Jones Insurance, your full-service agency, let us take care of all your insurance needs. We provide homeowners insurance, flood, rental, commercial, auto, and life insurance. Don't let the unexpected tragedy destroy your family's future. Here at Jones Insurance, 7603 West Bank Expressway, Monroe, Louisiana, 772. Contact Lois at 504-348-1492.
The New Orleans Talk Network, now on your mobile device, on your computer, in your ear, and interactive. It's new, it's innovative, and it's on your mobile device. Android, iPhone, iPad, and on your computer. Take us wherever you go. Because we're interactive. 504-341-TALK. That's 504-341-8255.
What's up, readers and shakers? It's your girl, Rhonda M. Lawson, sending you a personal invite to the Literary Lounge. Tune in to Horizons with Meet the World Image Solutions each Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for the best in literary conversation. Each week, a different author will join us to talk to their most important readers, you. You can also call in to ask your own questions. So don't forget, each Wednesday at 7 p.m., join us in the lounge for Horizons with Meet the World Image Solutions. See you there.
Your quality of life.
Let everyone know you listen to
The New Orleans Talk Network.
And we are back with my brother from another mother, brother Leroy Browder, my friend, my comrade, and guess what? He a sprawler. We were talking about, and I wanted to say that you can hit us up on Facebook. There's New Orleans Talk Network. This is Hostage That Fight Back. But we were talking about the sprawler, the thing that it was our homecoming. Booker T. Washington, class of 71. We was the Lions, and y'all were the
Indians.
The Indians, yeah.
John
What
Martin.
y'all color was green?
Orange and green.
Orange and green, right. I forget that. The other one had that orange and green was Carver.
That's
Carver
right.
Ram.
That's right.
But so go ahead on, my brother.
Okay. Well, I mean, it was we were chose to go up against Booker T.
And we were supposed to beat y'all butt.
Yes.
And I'm doing that lightly now.
And so we did some back at that time. Champ Clark was the sports, and we talked and they interviewed a couple of guys from Booker T and a couple of guys from John Martin. I was one of them, and we played super Booker T, but they had us down. And I was
at Tag Stadium. Huh?
Exactly.
City Park Stadium.
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to intercept a ball.
Yes,
I was played defensive back, and I intercepted. And after that, a very dear friend of mine, who eventually wound up going to Booker T, after John Martin moved to another type of schooling, William Shepard caught the winning touchdown against Booker T. Washington for their homecoming. So we were the Spurlers.
That's right. But let me ask you something, bro. Can you find me, if you can, any pictures or material in a few, not just by Booker Washington, but John Martin, because the kids need to know the history,
right?
And that's what you've been doing. Shortly, I want people to know that this man has been, if we don't remember our history, we're gonna repeat the problems or the mistakes that we made in the past. But go on, you have the floor, my brother.
Yeah, I was out in California and was fortunate enough to speak at a Senate hearing on incarceration. Worked with young kids out in Los Angeles and L.A. Being able to speak to them, those situations were key to my growth, if you will, for looking back, to look back and to try to reach someone who may have made a bad decision or who was about to make a bad decision. The organization that I am affiliated with is Motivation Works.
Okay.
Through mentorship. We have to come to terms with our children and giving them activities and come together as a community people involved with trying to reconstruct our history. For instance, I'm a huge researcher. I go over to Tulane University's Amistad Center.
You're a researcher, man.
With a wealth of knowledge. I'm doing some stuff now on the riots of Tulsa, where
Oklahoma.
they burned down what they called and considered the Black Wall Street.
Okay.
There was here in New Orleans, and I try to always tell people about it. One of the greatest slave revolts took place from La Place all the way towards New Orleans. It was overthrown, and actually there was trial for the slaves, and they were executed, as well as heads were being hung from La Place on River Road all the way towards New Orleans.
That was a lesson, warning to
exactly. But so these are the things that the black community, particularly, has to
remember,
show the children, tell the children of their history, of where we came from and where we're headed to. God did bless America, but there's a lot of things that are going on as it pertains to black communities that we need to educate our children about.
But you said something, and I wanted you to elaborate on that. Where are we headed to? What do you see? Can you give an overview on that?
I mean, they talk about Katrina recovery, New Orleans through its restoration. I do see a lot of positive aspects about it. The removal of the monuments, where a lot of people didn't see the significance of that being done. The schools here, the incarceration rate is under attack by people that dealing with specifically at justice reform. I've been to forums over at Dillard University on crime issues and what have you, and incarceration issues. So there is an active pursuit to change these things. What we need more people that have left the community to turn back. I always
the ones
tell
who flight.
Right. I always tell at Bible study, one of the prolific stories that I have come
And you're
into.
a teacher at Bible study, if I'm understood.
Yes.
Right.
But one of the things when Christ told Peter when he was going to be executed, if you will.
Okay.
And he told Peter, even though he was going to deny him, he told Peter, he said, turn back and strengthen your brethren. So to all of those who have left the community, all of those who feel as if there is no need for me to turn back, there is a great need. There's a great need for us to come back to the communities, put programs in the communities, and the athletes, the bus drivers, the judges, all of the teachers to come back and strengthen these communities.
And let me see this, Brother Browder. What you're saying is that, because, I've been involved in my community all my life, and I had people that helped me, my mother, my father. They were doing community work. I just wanted to see is there are those people who are listening audience, and we want you to call in, text us at 504-341-8255, and we want to hear your comment or what you have to say about it. But they'll say, well, I don't have the time, and I'm just a small grain of sand. What would you say to those people?
Well, that small grain of sand can actually accumulate. So how do we get to where we're going? One step at a time, one pebble at a time, one thought at a time. But the thing is to come in, to come together. The Bible once again says iron sharpens iron. So whatever you have, it doesn't say we start out perfect. It started out we're trying to come together and to get some reasoning as to where we need to bring the community. There's a host of things that people can do with their limited resources. Things weren't done all the time because everybody had all of the financing and that they needed to have finance. It started with a thought. It started with someone caring about the smallest detail of what would take and bring a community back.
Well, let me ask you a question, Brad. I'm going to pick your brain. Do you think the black community, just as a whole, do you think that since Martin Luther King was killed, do we think that the movement stopped when the bullet pierced his flesh, or are we going? Where are we at? Well, give us an overview on where we at.
In the sense of.
Are we? What I'm saying, there's so much going on because we hear that we have problems with us. We are vindictive towards us. We not. And let me say this to you: everything. I hear some people jealousy. I don't like this person, and they don't. And why you don't like him? We're not talking about children. We're talking about grown-ups, men 50, 60 years old who. They refuse to work with this individual because they say they don't like him. What do you say to that?
Well, I say that the person that refuses to gain knowledge is really doing themselves a disservice if you're focusing on what you don't like about somebody. There's a lot that we may not agree with, but I still allude to the Bible that it says, "Come now, let us reason together." And so if we can find reasoning between two people, just the thought of sitting down and thinking and coming to some sense of reasoning. But a lot of us don't know the method of coming together and sitting down and not looking at the individual, but looking at what's coming from his heart, perhaps.
Well, let me give you, and I'm smiling because I've had a situation. You and I are very passionate about what we're doing and what we're trying to do and make a difference. And we're not trying to save the world. We're trying to do what God has ordained us. You know that God has given you a purpose, and there's something that need to be done that has Brother Browder's name on it, and Brother Mims have. Am I right or wrong?
That's right.
But we have had, and you're very passionate. I respect you. I have great respect for that. That we find out you and I have had some heated, not to fight each other, no cussing and thing, but just about some opinions. But we find out once we don't leave the table, and don't leave when you get past, if you can get past that point, you find out that we got more in common. We have more in common. We can listen to one another and work on the commonality, if I may say. We've experienced that. Am I right or wrong?
That's right.
So that's the answer.
Well, when back to iron sharpeneth iron. I mean, if you can look at the picture of that in your mind, and with iron hitting iron, it sparks.
Yes.
It sparks.
Yes.
And so when we are
discussing,
when we are discussing something with disagreement, may be the sparks that we're seeing. But the fact is that while we doing and discussing what we're discussing, as the scripture says, we must do it heart to heart. We must keep our hearts in it. That's the tenderness. That's where it's at. Now, I go to Bible study and I tell them all the time, I say, we have two scriptures that we have in common here that I'm looking for. One is iron sharpeneth iron.
Okay.
Proverbs 27:17. The other one, it says, Isaiah 1:18 says, "Come now, let us reason together." So let's come to the table. I don't care where you're from, what hue you are. Let's come to the table, sit down and talk about children. Let's explore your ideas as well as others and come to some agreement that what will make this situation better. It's right before us. Humility is right before us. All we have to do is to be humble enough to hear what the other individual has to say. And it could very well be great ideas, great motivators.
Well, let me say this here. You had spoke about the statues, the removal of the statues, and I am for that. I was for that. I was there. But I think that those statues should not be destroyed. They should be put in a museum or exhibition or someplace else where our children got to remember, because out of sight, out of mind, got to remember what those statues stood for.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
And that's why I'm saying, because I hear people saying, well, they ought to be destroyed. No. We no. Let me say one thing, and we talked about this once years ago. The Jews, as long as they pass on to their children that there was a Holocaust, it was real.
Yes.
And you ain't gonna tell them it's not.
Right.
We have to remember that we experienced our own Holocaust, and I think that it was worse than the Jews. On a small estimate, they said it was about 600 million of us. It was more than that.
I couldn't help substantiate that number that you have. But the fact of the matter is that, of course, we should know from whence we come. Now, with regard to the monuments, and if you look at the history, I've researched that, and I will say,
I know you have. That's what he does.
7 years ago, somebody else forefathers, not ours, set forth this Constitution for the United States of America. Okay. And in that Constitution, they put together an institution. in that institution was called slavery.
Yes.
Now, when I was in high school, we didn't have Black history class.
Okay.
The things that I research and do now it is so awesome to understand what we had to do and overcome. You know, it wasn't just the 1811 slave revolt. You know, Yanka was someone who was out in Mexico, went up in the hills and fought, back. There's a town in Mexico named after, right, this particular warrior, a statue. So those things that we need to come to terms with giving our children the understanding. Some people said, I don't like to see that. I don't like to look at that. Well, I will say this to you. That's part of your history. Now, as far as...
I don't want to remember that.
Well, right. That. But as far as the statue goes, it was a great idea, for those who thought that they wanted to have these things erected. Once again, I will say something where racism is built in our national anthem. They will never sing the third stanza,
right, that's right.
And yet
that's
we have
right.
all of these people, athletes or whoever they are, they will not acknowledge the fact that the third stanza of that song addresses horrific treatments that were dedicated towards black people, the hirelings and the slaves who thought they were going to get away. See, so the fact of the matter is that if we come to terms with our histories, now, well, yes, the monuments has no significance but to be in a museum somewhere and perhaps somebody else paying for it. I'm not that interested in that.
Right.
But the American flag, I will always say, God did bless America. He blessed America. And so now, what do we have to do is to get our athletes, to make them more privy to their black history, to the movie industry actors, to make them more privy to showing much more of what's going on or happening in the black communities, right? We must do that. And they're not doing that. The churches, and I will say this to a bunch of some ministers that I've asked them this question. I said, let me ask you a question. Why haven't the church, right, taught the business perspective to the communities? Well, the corner store could have been a meat market. It could have been the Holy Church meat market, and we could have provided jobs. Why aren't they thinking in that regard? Well, Dr. King said this. He said this back in his sermon, right? Guidelines for a constructive church. It's there. They've shirked it. And so now what we have to do is come back to the community. Turn back. Turn back.
I want you to hold that thought, my brother. We're going to take another break, and we invite you to call at 504-341-8255, and you can hit us up on Facebook, New Orleans Talk Network. This Hostages That Fight Back with your host and co-host, Brother Browder and Brother Al Mims.
Join in on Mondays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. for Breaking the Silence with Dr. Patricia Fry. There are no limitations or boundaries. We talk about life, and guess what? That includes you. So download the app today, New Orleans Talk Network, and subscribe on YouTube. That's every Monday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. New Orleans Talk Network, Breaking the Silence with Dr. Patricia Fry.
Our listeners are as important as our guests. Join in on the conversation. 504-341-8255. The New Orleans Talk Network.
Merry Merry Mondays. It's your girl, Mary J. I want you to tune in with me to Real Talk with Mary J on New Orleans Talk Network every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Then follow me to blogtalkradio.com/Real Talk with Mary J at 10 p.m. It's going to be a Merry Monday every Monday at 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. You've just tuned into New Orleans Talk Network.
Are you looking for a home to live stream your next event? Give us a call here at Bethesda Community Event Center, the only place on the Gulf Coast that can host and broadcast live your wedding reception, your baby shower, business seminar, and any other special event. Give us a call at 504-708-9454 for more details.
Hello, this is Dr. Glenda E. Williams.
This is Charles Stewart.
Dr. Anthony Williams.
And I want to encourage you to join Church Without Walls every Monday morning from 11 a.m. to 12 noon.
And we want to encourage you to promote God's plan and not man's plan.
Don't you dare miss it.
Nobody gives you better conversation about your quality of life.
Let everyone know you listen to
The New Orleans Talk Network.
This is Brother Al Mims with my co-host, Brother Leroy Browder, and my guest. And I think that Brother Browder, been talking about iron sharpens iron and what some of the things that's going on in our community, from the monuments to slavery to where we at now and what we could do, and you offer a lot of solutions. But I think that we have a caller.
Yes, good morning. This is Miss Jones. Good morning to your guest, yourself, and all the listening audience.
Okay, Sister Jones, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
What you got for us, my sister?
Listen to all of this is going on. Respect for each other's ideas, definitely a key thing. And we don't have to be so disagreeable with each other. Generally speaking, just hold a thought if you disagree now, because somewhere at a later date, a rainy day, you need the same idea.
Well, Sister Jones, you one thing, and I'm gonna tell you, you have never changed. You know, you always you offer solutions, and you speak about the issues. And I heard on another show that they was talking about, like the East, and we have issues and problems, and we are vindictive towards one another.
Exactly. We need to really stop, look and listen, get sobered up. Instead of being drunken with all the festivities, put that at the bottom. And the top of coming together first in your own household. The main thing, one big thing is economics and roof over your head. Just need to come together. And just think about it. We need to come together.
Yeah. Well, you brought the subject up this morning, and I wanted Brother Browder to chime in. Is that I've known you, and you've been involved, for a long time in the community. I mean, you've been, and you don't take no, you like a Timex. You take a lick and keep on ticking. But we spoke about togetherness, and I'll say this as I'll give an example. We got you got four fingers. You can't do too much with the 4 fingers, but if you wrap that thumb around those fingers, you can strike a blow. You're saying that this morning you were saying that a lot of things are going on in New Orleans East, and people are fighting one another instead of coming together because we got more in common. If you want to say, no matter how you say it, or you may not be educated, you may not have the degrees, you may not have the mansions or the house or the kind of job together, but there's some problems in our communities, and I'm not just saying it was talking about New Orleans East, but we all have similar problems, and we can make this thing happen. Am I right?
Exactly, because they let slip through the fingers, people and. In a primary, for example, and for several times, the lady has been running, and they still refuse. So here you're left with 2 people, and there's a struggle, either one that you want, basically, but all the fighting and let a Jew get away.
Yes. Yes,
And the East, I think, is really the last part. That I remember when they were expanding the East with the 60s and 70s. They said the only way they could make the city larger is going eastward, because everything was developed, uptown, the historical parts. And right now, I think a lot of things are not being done because they don't want to do the things that they would do to bring it up until they figured the system could purge blacks out of the East.
Well,
Mainly bringing people up from way down St. Bernard Parish, where they practically in the Shell Beach water.
Well, Brother Browder, this is my guest, Sister Jones, Brother Leroy Browder, a friend of mine, for a lifelong friend. What do you think about it, Brother Browder? What you think about it?
Well, it goes back to the collaboration. I mean, what makes great city great? We speak of others. They number one for this and they number two for that. And I think we should pattern ourselves how people are getting things done in other cities, if you will, to bring it back to New Orleans East could be much more built up than what it is right now.
Okay, we definitely know that, but I think the system is probably having a time where they want to wait, and if they figure they could purge, then they try to get us out of the city. The East is the last part where you probably still have plenty more space for housing, for business, and what have you. But we're not going to do that now. We want to try to purge them out, and so they want to get people discouraged. But we still have to hold tight, hold on, don't separate. They need to have a change, because it can be done, but they just want to do it at a specific time when they figure it could purge blacks out of the East. The city, what did they say? Katrina did what we couldn't do.
Yeah.
The master plan, the New Orleans, we're going to let this last one area be touched lastly to do and bring it up with other cities. But they don't want us to enjoy, our people to enjoy the privileges of it.
Yeah, Sister Jones, we look around and I see, and I'm not going to even name the name, but I want Brother Browder to know that we look at New Orleans East, just say New Orleans East, and because it really is the frontier. They had 4 women bodies dumped there. The tires that they had a fire a couple of weeks ago, it's a dumping ground. It's a wasteland. It's a jewel, but it's an untapped jewel. It has not been refined.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And they want to take it. We're going to get them all out. We didn't get them out during the flood. This is the last report. We have a whole lot, and then we'll take it and make it build up. They had a documentary come on Channel 12. I think it was 10 cities. And they went back, even colonial, pre-colonial, what have you, and they kept the historical things, buildings and what have you. And I think in the order in which they came, I wish I could get that documentary. And they were just showing how it was done, and it came up to, when it came to home buying during World War II, you take like on DeSac Boulevard, that was the area where Caucasians lived. And they built similar houses, and gradually, up to what's there now in those different cities. I think of Pennsylvania was one, Chicago, Florida. I can't think of the order. But we've always been excluded. They've had more space and ground, whereas we were always built stack.
Well, Sister Jones, I have my guest here, Brother Browder. He stayed in the Kenner area,
Bunch Village.
Bunch Village. Yeah. What do you and there was a lot of untapped. What do you think about your community as what it did, and you were trying to and succeeding and letting the kids know what the history was, what was going on there? What you think?
Well, first I'd like to say to Sister Jones that I lived in New Orleans East, years and years ago, in that type of situation. I see the plight that New Orleans East is going through. I actually have family, friends that lived in my uncle, deceased now, but lived in the Lower Ninth Ward for years. So I see patches of resurgency with refurbishing houses, and I think that's wonderful, right? But we need, same thing that I'm doing now out in where I grew up in Bunch Village, is to come back and lend a voice. Where are the voices? We need to have the voices, the planners, the ambassador, the city council person was the ambassador for that district, and they failed. They failed there. They were also interacting with someone, a dear friend of mine, who still lives out in Bunch Village because they were a client of theirs. So we need real people, and let me see, I saw Mr. Jefferson was in the paper just the other day. We need real people that's going to come and make sure that our community is growing. Who's there? Who's there to fight? You want it. You see what's happening. There's no opportunities. People are leaving, right? People are leaving, and sometimes by choice because there's not enough going on in the New Orleans East or New Orleans. Things are changing. It should be much swifter, but gradual change is still change, and we must come to the table to push it forward. There has to be a collective organization of people to come and say, this is what we need in this community. New Orleans East, wherever. We need those sort of things to be set up.
Sister Jones.
So many of our leaders have sold out. They've taken that bag for 30.
Exactly.
I was going to say that, Sister Jones. I want to tell you.
Exactly.
We got less than 2 minutes.
And they got to dance to the tune. That's the leaders we have.
We got less than 2 minutes, my sister. Okay. I want you to know time flies. I want to thank you. I need you to get in touch with me next week because we're going to continue this. Sister Jones, thank you for being a light in a dark tunnel and being obedient to the will of God. I want to thank God for Brother Browder and people like them. And I want to thank God for hope because our children need to have hope. A hopeless people is a dangerous people. Sister Jones, this is Brother Al Mims.
Just a little bit of tiny part.
Yes. This is Brother Mims, Houses That Fight Back, New Orleans Talk Network. We'll see you tomorrow, next week. You be blessed. Thank you, Sister Jones.
When I wake up in the morning, love, and the sunlight hurts my eyes.